On a grey Tuesday evening, the small diner on the corner of Maple Street was nearly empty. The neon sign outside buzzed faintly as it flickered, painting the cracked sidewalk in hues of red and blue. Inside, the smell of grilled onions and coffee hung heavy in the air. At a corner booth, a man sat hunched over the menu, his calloused fingers tracing the prices as though searching for a miracle that wasn't written there. His name was Daniel. He was 34, a single father, and the kind of man whose eyes told stories even before his lips did. Across from him sat his daughter, Emily, a wide-eyed 7-year-old with freckles dusted across her cheeks like stars scattered on a canvas. Her legs swung beneath the booth, not quite reaching the floor. She was humming softly, tracing little shapes on the condensation of her water glass, blissfully unaware of the heaviness pressing down on her father. Daniel had exactly $5 in his wallet. That was all. A crumpled bill and 2 coins rattling with the weight of his desperation. Rent was overdue, his work hours had been cut at the construction site, and the only thing heavier than the fatigue in his body was the fear in his heart. He had promised Emily they would go out to eat tonight, not because he could afford it, but because she had been asking for weeks. She wanted pancakes at night, something she thought was magical. He hadn't had the heart to tell her number. At another booth, near the window, sat a young man in a crisp navy suit. His laptop was open beside a half-eaten sandwich, and his phone buzzed occasionally, lighting up with the kind of urgency only money and power demanded. His name was Alexander Edel. Most knew him as Alexa, the 28-year-old CEO of a rapidly growing tech company. He was the kind of man who wore success like a second skin. But tonight his eyes weren't on the spreadsheets in front of him. They were on the little girl at the corner booth and the father staring too long at the menu. Alex recognized that look. He had seen it in his own father's face years ago, before success had swept in and carried him to a different life. It was the look of a man doing math in his head, calculating not just dollars but dignity. The waitress, a kind woman named Marlene, approached Daniel's table with a tired smile. "What'll it be tonight?" she asked, pen poised above her notepad. Daniel cleared his throat, his voice gravelly. "Just 1 short stack of pancakes, please. Extra syrup if that's okay." He hesitated, glancing at Emily, whose eyes lit up. "And a glass of water." Marlene nodded, though she noticed the absence of a meal for him. She didn't comment, just gave a small smile and walked back toward the counter. Emily leaned forward, her voice soft but full of concern. "Daddy, aren't you hungry?" Daniel forced to smile. "I'm not too hungry tonight, sweetheart. I'll have a bite of yours." She frowned but didn't argue, trusting him the way children do, completely and without question. From his booth, Alex felt something twist inside him. He had sat in meetings worth millions, signed contracts that would decide futures, but here was something raw, something real. Without thinking too long, he stood and made his way to the counter where Marlene was placing the order slip. "Excuse me," Alex said quietly, leaning in. "Can you do me a favor? Add 2 cheeseburger meals, extra fries, and a milkshake to that man's table. Don't tell him it's from me. Just say it's on the house." Marlene raised her brows but smiled knowingly. "Of course, honey." When the food arrived at Daniel's table, his confusion was instant. He looked at the plate. He saw burgers, fries, a milkshake, and then back at Marlene. "I think there's a mistake. I didn't order this." Marlene gave a gentle shrug. "No mistake. It's on the house tonight." Chef felt generous. Daniel blinked, overwhelmed. He opened his mouth to protest, but Emily was already giggling, dipping a fry into her milkshake. "Daddy, look. It's like a feast." Daniel swallowed hard, blinking back the sting in his eyes. For the first time in weeks, he felt the weight of kindness press against the heaviness of his worry. Across the diner, Alex closed his laptop and pretended to check his phone. Though his eyes lingered on the booth, he watched as Emily offered her father half of her milkshake and as Daniel finally allowed himself to take a bite of food. It wasn't charity, it was dignity disguised as chance. But that night was only the beginning. When they left the diner, Alex followed at a distance, something pulling at him stronger than logic. He saw the old pickup truck Daniel climbed into, the way the door screeched when it shut, the exhaustion in the way he leaned his forehead against the steering wheel before starting the engine. The next morning, Alex instructed his assistant to run a search. He wanted to know who Daniel was. Within hours, he had a file in front of him. A single father, worked construction. Wife passed away 2 years ago. No savings. No family nearby. No safety net. Just him and his little girl against the world. That night, Alex showed up at the construction site. Daniel was sweeping up debris when the young CEO approached. Out of place in his tailored suit. Daniel looked up, startled. "Can I help you?" he asked, cautious. Alex smiled faintly. "I think maybe I can help you." At first, Daniel bristled, pride rising to shield him. But Alex didn't come with pity. He came with an offer of steady work, better pay, and benefits that would cover Emily's school and health. He came not as a man giving charity but as someone who understood the quiet war Daniel was fighting. At first, Daniel resisted. But one look at Emily's face when she found out she could go on her school's field trip without worrying about money melted every ounce of hesitation. What began as a meal in a diner became something far greater. It became the start of a friendship between two men from different worlds but cut from the same cloth. They're both shaped by struggle, both refusing to give up on the ones they loved. Months later, Daniel no longer sat in diners counting coins. Emily laughed louder, slept better, and carried herself with the lightness of a child who felt safe. And Alex, for all his wealth, he realized he had been starving too, not for food, but for connection, for meaning. That night in the diner, when a single dad had only $5 and a daughter who just wanted pancakes, Alex had discovered the kind of wealth that could never be measured in dollars. And in the quiet of his heart, Daniel knew too that sometimes the kindest miracles came not from angels in the sky but from strangers at the next table who chose to see.